everyone, I'm Dr. Neda. I'm a single mom of 2 teenage sons whom I love and, like every parent, want the very best for. I consider myself a very strong woman capable of doing many different things. I grew up in Middle East where I witnessed firsthand women fighting for their rights on a daily basis. So you can imagine how thrilled I am with the rise of the divine feminine in human consciousness. Although it's a paradigm that's slow to change and is encountering a lot of resistance, I see glimmers of light everywhere, including at my boys' all-military school, where they've appointed the first female president in the 110 years of the school's history. What concerns me is that pendulums tend to swing from one polarity to another, and I'm concerned that masculine energy will not be respected and honored, and it will lead to more separation between men and women. In a perfect world, we will find a balance between divine masculine and feminine polarities. In doing so, we can unravel the division that impacts us all. This is the reason why I'm inspired to do these interviews, to shine a light on a positive balance. So what is a divine masculine? What does it entail and what does it bring forth? Men in their positive polarities, they're calm, they're centered, they're supportive, they're secure, rational, and very reasonable. They are clear-minded and action-oriented. They're powerful and decisive, and they guide with courage and self-discipline. They're reflective thinkers who passionately guide and help others. These extraordinary men are the ones who lead from their hearts and not with their emotional egos. The wonderful men that I'm privileged to interview are the reflective of the positive polarity of divine masculine. These are quality men who are strong, respectable, honorable, and really deserve to be celebrated. Please go ahead and hit that like button, comment, ask questions, share, and subscribe. You're a very valuable part of this movement, and your opinion really matters. Thank you very much. Light, love, and blessings to you all. Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Neda, and today I have a very special guest with us. His name is Artin Fallahi, and he has been one of the most motivational people in my life. He's done a lot of loans for my own homes and properties. He's like a magician. I respect him because not only he's amazing in what he does, but he's an amazing father, an amazing husband, an incredible human being. So I'm really happy and privileged to have him on our show. Thank you for coming, Artin.
Thank you so much. My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. So a lot of questions I wanted to ask you because you had an interesting life from the get-go, from the beginning. So tell us about, you were born in Iran.
Correct.
And you were telling me about how you made it to US with your family, which was an interesting story.
Right, yes. My family's Armenian. We're from Iran. And in the 90s, we decided to leave the country and come to America for better opportunities. Unfortunately, the routes to coming to the U.S. aren't as simple, so we had to flee the country and get smuggled through several countries. So we had an interesting path going out of Iran. We went to Istanbul and then Bosnia and then Slovenia and Austria. And then, and there were, I'm sure, a couple of more countries in between.
And you were younger.
I was, yes, so I was 15 turning 16, and I was in high school. So I was in second year of high school in Iran when we fled. And we ended up in south of Austria, and we sought asylum. So they gave us asylum for Austria. And within that, about a year we were in Austria, we applied for asylum to the U.S. And then eventually we were granted asylum, and then we're flown to Los Angeles, straight to Glendale. and that's
course.
where my life started here in the States.
Yes.
And
you had an interesting, because you went to college, of course you finished high school, and you started with something so different than loans and the things that you do, because
Correct.
You were telling me that your passion has always been in finance and real estate, but you started from something very different. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so growing up, I was always good at math and physics. So mathematics was a passion. So naturally, I guess due to lack of access to information, right? It's not like we had a big circle and sphere to draw from and learn from. about different businesses, different industries. We're just naturally, especially us culturally, right? When you're good at math, they said, "Oh, it's going to be an engineer," right? So,
Yes.
so I was good at it, so I got drawn into engineering, and I got into engineering. So I got my bachelor's in computer engineering and a master's in electrical engineering. Most of my engineering career was in aerospace defense. So I worked for a number of defense contractors, design, and then I got into management. Towards end of my career in that industry, I was in management, so I started attending USC for an MBA degree.
But before you say that, I want to
Yes.
interrupt you because by that time you were married and you had 2 kids.
Correct. Yes. So
Let's not forget
Right.
under what circumstances
Right,
you
so-
decided to do that.
yeah, so I met my wife when I was actually in last year of college. I met my wife. Funny story. I know her from high school. I used to be her math tutor.
Oh,
So-
wow.
That's how I met girls in high school, I guess. Math tutoring. So I was her math tutor, but we didn't see each other for years, right? We didn't date in high school because she's 2 years younger. So we got into. I was last year of college, and I met her at a cafe. We were both studying, and then we started dating. Fast forward a few years later, we're married. And I was working, and we had 2 boys back to back. My boys are 9 and 10 right now, so they're a year and a day apart. So we had Irish twins. So they were a handful. They're amazing boys, but it takes a lot of energy. When my second one was born, I was accepted into the MBA program. So that was a very hectic 2-3 years, span of 2-3 years for me, and especially for my wife, because she also had a career. She was working full time, and we had 2 kids, and I was attending night school, going to SC, driving from Woodland Hills to USC, 2-3 times a week. So it was a very hectic 2-3 years. But I feel like it was a great awakening for me because it showed. Business school was more of a kind of a light of fire in me to pursue my own business, right, and entrepreneurship, because I always, quote unquote, had hustles, right, even in high school, even in college, I always had side businesses to make extra money, and being in a corporate world kind of took that away from me. So when I went to business school, and USC is amazing in that, where they have connections with a lot of entrepreneurs, simple people who you get exposed to, who started amazing businesses and made hundreds of millions of dollars, billions of dollars even, and you get to meet these people and believe that, okay, if they can do it,
I can do it as
why am I sitting in a cubicle or an office all day? Right, I can go and make something of my own. So,
Now, I don't want you to talk about your passion and your business right now,
Sure.
because right now I want to talk about your wife.
Sure, yes.
Ani.
Yes.
She's an amazing human being. I personally know her. She is incredible. So she was supportive of you when you just came home and you said, okay, I want to now pursue another passion of mine.
Right.
So as a very, thank God, happily married couple, which, marriages, I don't know, I think 70% or 80% are failing nowadays. What would you say is the number one thing that's really important in a relationship?
Right. I think, there are a lot of aspects to relationships that are important, but I think number one is support. You got to support each other, right?
Yes.
And that can be, it doesn't necessarily have to be emotional or financial or spiritual or any other, aspect of trust and support. But if you're with someone, you have to support them. And I feel like if she hadn't supported me, even when I decided to go to business school, that wasn't a light ask, right? She had a full-time job. She worked at Disney for 12 years. So she had a full-time job, career. She always worked, just like me, since she was 15, 16, she was always working, trying to ends meet, right? So neither of us come from wealthy families, so we always had to help and support and do our own thing on the side. But even business school, I came home, she was pregnant with the second child. And I said, with the first child, sorry. When I said, look, I want to apply to business school, and it's 3 years, and I'll be gone all weekends, most evenings. And she didn't have to think about it twice. She said, that's what you want to do, I'm sure you'll do it. You're not going to waste our time.
That's amazing.
So, we had nights where I had midterms. I would sleep in a different bedroom because the kids, how babies are, they wake up 4 times a night. So I would sleep in another room and go and take care of my things, and while she was, trying to juggle all these things. So it's fantastic. And then, of course, after that, a couple of years after, then came the change of career and business and all that, and she was very supportive. So, if it wasn't for their support, I wouldn't be able to do any of it.
But you pursued your dream, and I feel like when you have a partner who also really respects and supports your dreams, that relationship becomes so much stronger, because we could have the great chemistry and the friendship, but also we all have dreams, and finding somebody who will be respectful of that and also supportive of it, I think makes a big difference.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you're with someone and they constantly look, I'm not saying the partner has to be agreeable to everything you say. I mean, that's just not normal either. But if they bash every dream or every idea you have, eventually you stop believing in yourself. Because if you say, even my wife or my husband doesn't believe in me, then how can I convince someone else, a business partner, a client, to believe in me, right? So again, I'm not saying that all my ideas should be agreed on, right? She'll disagree, we'll have a discussion. But there are some core dreams and values that if you have that drive, if your partner doesn't support it, at some point you will convince yourself that you're not worthy of it, and you'll talk yourself out of it. Right?
Exactly. So. And that's the most important person in your life. So
correct. Yeah,
coming from her.
Person you spend the most
time.
So
this leads me into dating advice, because a lot of singles are out there, and as you were saying, with 86 list of 86 traits that you're looking for, or they're not looking for anything. So tell me about, you've been married for a long time, you're successful, you guys love each other, you're making it work in this day and age. So coming from you, it means a lot. So what would you recommend people who are single who want to date, women and men?
Right, yeah. First of all, I would start with saying no marriage, no relationship is perfect. Whether it's a business relationship, it's a partnership, a friendship, or a marriage, nothing is perfect. So if you're looking for something perfect, you'll never find it, right? So I think we just got to get that out of our head, that everything is a work, you got to work at it, right? Being married is very difficult, especially when you add children into the mix and all the responsibilities and scheduling and all that, financial pressure and stress. But my advice is,
are you a self-employed buyer and you don't qualify for traditional mortgage? We have some alternative options for you. Hi Artin, and please tell us what options we have.
Hi Adina, of course. So for those who don't qualify for traditional mortgages, we have bank statement only loans, where we look only at your deposits of your business or personal bank statement. Again, I haven't been in the dating world for a long time.
For a long time, yes.
The last time I dated anyone was, I don't know, 18 years ago. So I don't have the latest advice, but the advice I would give, I think it holds. It doesn't matter if you're doing online dating or meeting someone at a bar. I think you gotta have, don't lower your expectations, but identify what are your core values, right? You cannot have a list of 86 things. You cannot say the person needs to be wealthy, well-educated, the family has to be perfect, their siblings have to be perfect, they have to have a career, they have to have a six-pack, they have to be athletic, they have to love traveling, right? You cannot make this unimaginable list, right? So it's like no one fits that the criteria,
Absolutely.
Right? So I would say whoever you are, everyone has different values, right? I have different values, you have different values. Maybe they overlap in some areas, right? But you got to have your core values. If it's 3, if it's 4, it cannot be 80, right?
Yeah.
If the person fits those core values, then everything else you can work at it if you love each other, right? If you care enough, you'll make it work. If you don't care, then you can find 1,000 excuses not to be with someone, right? And that's true with every marriage.
Absolutely. And you said like even deal breakers, then you have
Right.
to know your deal, as you mentioned as an example, like Ani with smokers.
Correct.
You know what I mean? Like you really
Right.
need
You
to
have
know
to
what
know
you
what
can't
are your
stand.
deal breakers, and if you get into a relationship and for example, loyalty is a deal breaker. If you're disloyal, that person will not tolerate it. Then you know that from day one. 6 years later, you cannot assume that person will change or change their
Absolutely.
core values. But yeah, I mean I think putting criteria such as like income is very difficult because if she judged me on income at age 20, whatever, I mean, how can
Yeah.
you judge someone on their? So I think you got to judge people on their potential, not just financially, but just in every aspect, right?
Also, I've realized that if you have a good person next to you, you're a perfect
Exactly,
example
right,
of that.
right.
From the corporate world being there for 10 years, and then you decided if she didn't support you, you wouldn't have your own business, you wouldn't be so successful, you wouldn't make so much money because she was a good partner and you had a dream, she supported you. So you're right, it is a potential.
Right, yeah. So as long as you see a potential and you're willing to help that person achieve, and again, it doesn't have to be just all career. And I know nowadays a lot of the younger generation on both sides, women and men, it's all about how much
Money you're
making and all that. And I think that's false, because if someone's making a lot of money, first of all, and they're still not in a relationship, then you got to see then if it was just about money, then how come they're not married, right? So it can't be all about money, right? There's other aspects to the relationship. But I can say from my experience, obviously, our circle of friends are mostly married, right? Because when you're single, you hang out with single people.
Correct.
When you're married, not only we hang out with married couples, but only couples who have kids, because they can't tolerate someone with kids if they don't have the right. So what I see is all my successful male friends, right, like men, they all have amazing relationships. If they usually have a wife who's not supportive, then their businesses wouldn't have grown. So it's a huge part of it. And for a man to say I could have done it by myself, it's true. But at least the married ones I know, none of them would be able to achieve what they achieved if it wasn't for the support of their wives.
So this goes to tell us that women have such an important part. And I believe that even in any relationship, as you said, friendship even, whatever you bring out in that person, you can really make that person feel doubtful about themselves and what they bring to the table, or you can really support them in their strengths and they become amazing. So, it's so true when you have a good wife, and either way, because there are a lot of amazing husbands out there too, that they support their wives and they're there for their wives. Nowadays I feel like a lot of it has balanced out, which is great.
Right. Yes.
So what makes a relationship last? Because as we were talking about that, you were telling me people need to know their roles. So can you elaborate on it a little bit?
Sure, yes. Yeah, I think what makes a relationship work is for a couple to know their boundaries, right? There are things that I don't intervene in, right? And there are things that she won't get involved in. I think a lot of stories we hear from friends who, come seek help because they're having issues in the relationships, it's usually when the families are involved in the relationships, right? It doesn't matter if it's the husband's mom or the wife's mom or whoever, right?
Or even friends, I believe.
Or friends can be a really bad influence. So I think you have to have your boundaries. There are lines you can't cross in a relationship. Once that line is crossed, I think it's very difficult to walk back from that. That new territory, right? So it's I would say boundaries and roles, right? So if as a husband you know what your roles are, and as a wife you know what your roles are, then whatever those are, I'm not going to set these roles for everyone, right?
Yeah,
Because
whatever
I have
works
my
in the
own
relation-
values.
Yes.
There are some households where the wife may be the breadwinner, right? That's fine, as long as the husband knows that going in, right? Because that's the relationship. Same with traditional marriage, where the husband is the breadwinner and the wife helps raise children, right? Again, going back to my personal relationship, when my business was growing and I needed more help at home, she was willing to sacrifice her own career and quit. After 12 years being with Walt Disney, she left and she said, look, I'm going to take care of the kids, make sure their education, everything is taken care of, and you focus on the business. And of course, that helped me grow the business a lot. If she was selfish and said, no, I want to have my own job, I don't want to do this, you figure it out, then I wouldn't be able to grow the business, and we would both hurt at the end of the day, right?
Exactly.
So those roles are important, and just you have to be selfless in a relationship. You cannot be selfish and just say, it's my way or the highway. And I think a lot of the individualism these days, people go read 3 books, and it's all about me, right? Well, then you can't be in a relationship if that's how you...
Absolutely.
Right?
Relationships mean compromise.
Yeah, both men and women, right?
And it doesn't matter what kind of a relationship, even with your kids.
Right.
You know what I mean? Even as parents, you
Right.
have to compromise
every
a lot.
minute.
Yeah, really.
Every minute. Yeah, again, with kids, we have core values, right? These we will not tolerate, ever. Doesn't matter what age they are. But there are a lot of compromises we have to make with children.
Absolutely.
And
So
the smarter they get, they negotiate better. So.
Exactly, and I have the teenagers, so believe me, there is nothing I can win, and no arguments,
Right.
nothing, because there's so much reasoning that goes, and boys are very logical.
Right.
And I love that, because
They
my brain
convince you.
doesn't work that way, and after a while, I'm like, they're so right, why was I even thinking like that? I tell them both they need to become attorneys.
Right,
I'm like,
exactly.
But they're clients, and everybody has to be females, because when other men get involved, I don't know what
Right,
happens.
yes.
So now I'm going to shift gears, and I'm going to ask you, because this was a great question I only had for you. What is the definition of a good role model? Because your answer, I think, was very, because I always think people always have one role model they admire and everything,
Right.
but how you answered it was really...
Right, I think a good role model, because a lot of people tend to pick someone famous or someone who achieved something, and like an athlete, for example, and say, that's my role model. Well, I think you need to have several role models, right? In a relationship, you need a role model. It may not be your parents, right? If you need a male role model, if you're a boy growing up, right? Your male role model, maybe your father, maybe your teacher, maybe your coach, maybe your uncle, right? So you need to have a role model for every aspect of your life, right? In business, when I was in a corporate world as an employee, as an engineer, I had different role model. When I came to the business world, I needed different role models, because that role model that helps you achieve things in let's say, and same thing with mentors, right? Achieve things in that environment they know nothing about this environment, right? So when you're married, you may need a different role model than when you're 18, and you have different role models, because all you want to do is party and have a good time, right? So I think you need to identify where you need guidance and pick a role model in those areas. Right?
And as you mentioned, somebody just because they're amazing in business doesn't mean they're a good husband or a father.
No.
So you're absolutely
Even
right.
a good husband may not be a good father, right?
That's
and then
true.
a good father may not be a good husband, right? So just because one person is good at one thing doesn't make them an amazing person in every category. So
Absolutely. So that's very nice. I'm so glad that you're saying that now. I'm grateful. I'm grateful for all my sorrows and pain. I'm grateful for all my sufferings and hurt. I'm grateful for all my hardship and heartaches. I'm grateful for all this experience called feelings. The beauty in all that is allowed to be felt by us, the humanly reality. How beautiful it is to be able to feel. Not only the good and the joyful, but to feel it all.
I've been a patient of Dr. Neda for over 10 years, and I'm in construction industry. Whenever I hurt my back, I come here and she fixes me right up, acupuncture and cupping, and usually fixes me within days. My wife and my 2 children also attend here. She's very good. I recommend her. Thank you.
I'm going to wish you a very happy 40th birthday,
Thank
the
you.
40, because this is my next question. What is the best part about getting older?
Yes, I would say, I mean, obviously, as a father, you love seeing your children grow, obviously, right? You look forward to it. I sound so old saying this now. But I would say the only good thing about getting old is your wisdom, right? Like if that's the only thing you gain. Every day that you wake up and you experience life, your wisdom grows by another day. And, you know, if you can go back and be a 18-year-old kid, but you can keep all this wisdom, I mean, look what you can accomplish.
Absolutely.
Right? You don't need the education, you don't need the money, you don't need the assets, you don't need properties. All you need is take back your wisdom that you earned over all these years and you learned, and you can do so much with it. So I would say, yeah, wisdom is what you gain.
Wisdom. I mean, that's amazing, honestly. Right. And the experiences that we get to keep.
Right, exactly.
So I know that you were talking about your grandmother and how much she meant to you. And in one sentence, or like, no, not in one sentence, you can explain about her. What did you love about her? This is interesting because as a female too, she was an older lady. Of course, she was your grandmother. But what was so special about her?
Yeah, I would say my grandmother, she's I don't know what it is about her, but it's the only person in my life, right, that I've never seen her be angry, use foul language. She raised 5 children, right? Again, no education, none of the things that we value today, right? No career, no business. She raised 5 children. She continues to help raise many, many grandkids, right? She has, I think, at this point, 13 grandkids. So it's the and I'm the oldest, so I'm the best.
So, of course, you're the most loved, and you're
right.
a boy. Oh my God, this is and 13 grandkids, and now she has great grandkids.
Yes, she has 2 great grandkids, and she continues to love them, right? And I hope we have her in our lives for many, many more years to come. But I would say the most important, just pure strength of her character, right? I have very bad temper, right? So I definitely didn't get that from her. But she never has temper. She's always calm. She's had difficulties, many difficulties in life. She had my mom when she was only 16.
Oh, wow.
Right, so she became an adult very soon in life, right? She never met her parents, right? She was raised by her uncle.
So where were her parents?
Parents perished when she was like
very
young. Yeah, so it's
very difficult.
Yeah, when people come and say, "Oh my God, I got into an accident, horrible, worst day of my life," right? And our kids say that sometimes, you know, like their iPad is slow. Worst day of my life. Like, no, this you have no idea what
a worst day could be. Yes.
Yeah. So the most fascinating conversations I have with my grandma is I have these conversations about her childhood and the village, and they came to Tehran, right? Like when she was very young, and how they built their family and 5 kids in a 1-bedroom house, right? All these things are fascinating to me. And I think there's so much lesson to be learned from her life and the wisdom she has. So
what a blessing she is.
Yes.
I mean, I believe that nowadays, especially with the society, there's less patience. They don't really put value in the older people and their wisdom. Correct. A lot of kids, they don't even have that anymore. They get bored. Right. But there's so much wisdom, as you said, as we get older, and you can learn so much.
Yeah, I think the kids especially, and I was the same way. I mean, boys especially, we have an ego. So we're growing up, we don't want to hear the parents, right? But I think we always love to talk to grandparents.
Yes.
And my father's side, both my grandparents passed years ago. But it was always such a fascination for me. I would go sit down and talk to them. Hey, how was it here? You guys had cows? You know, how did you eat? how did you not have a car? Like you've never driven in your life? It's like, yeah, I've never, so these things were fascinating to me. And I think there's so many lessons to be learned. And that you're again, yes, I agree with you. I think in our more modern culture, especially here, we've lost the respect for elderly and we mock them. Like, what do they know? They never went to, college or something like that. They didn't have this, they don't have that. But life lessons alone, you can pick a few good things that would help you in your life.
Absolutely.
So talk to your grandparents.
If you're still
blessed enough to have them around.
Exactly. So true. Yeah. So my next question is going to be from your grandparent, which I think she was an amazing human. I mean, she is an amazing human being. We're going to what makes someone a good leader. I mean, even if you think about it, her in her own life was a good example for everyone and a good leader. So in your opinion, what makes somebody a good leader? Yeah,
I think the best leaders are those who lead by example, right? A leader doesn't mean you need a podium to stand up and give a speech. And I remind that of myself. If I'm doing things right in my house, I don't need to have the talks with my sons, right? I just need them to see how I treat my wife. And hopefully that's big enough to teach them those lessons, right?
Absolutely.
You cannot have your sons go read a book about how to be good in a relationship. You have to teach them what it is to be in a good relationship, right? And that's same with friends, and that's same with when they come in. Even my 9-year-old, it comes in, it's like, so-and-so friend, he's the worst. I'm never going to be friends with him, right? So that's like the teaching moment, right? And that's how you bring up examples with your own friends. And I say, look, Daddy is much older. I have friends. These things happen, and this is how I deal with it, right? So I think if they see that, and you just got to lead by example. If they see their parents are hardworking, that's a much bigger leadership role than, like telling them, hey, read this book, be a good worker, or work hard in life. Right?
Especially if parents are doing things that they don't want their kids. Let's say somebody is a smoker and they tell their kids, don't smoke. I feel like, especially nowadays with kids, and they're so smart and advanced, they question everything.
Yes. No, they listen. They listen to things they shouldn't be listening to. But when you want them to listen, they don't listen to you. But they hear everything. They analyze everything. They overanalyze. They think about it. I mean, my sons are both, we're blessed, very smart. So they come with some crazy questions, and sometimes they
Google.
Yeah,
no, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, now it's Chat GPT. They probably type it up before they come talk to you.
That's true.
But yeah, I think a good leader in business, in household, in relationship, you have to lead by example, right?
Yes.
If you keep telling your wife be loyal or your husband be loyal, but you're not, or if you say don't lie, but you constantly get caught lying, right? So you're not leading by example, so it's just not gonna.
I agree with that. So as we were talking, it's amazing because I thought this was only one question, but you defined it so beautifully that I was like, it made me even think. What makes somebody a hero or a legend? So this was one question for me, but the way you described it, I was like, hold on a second, that's true.
Right.
So tell me about heroes and legends.
Yeah, so legend, the way I understood it is a legend is one that takes their line of activity. It doesn't have to be work, right? They line of work to a new level. They're legendary, right? Because they think they did things that no one else could do. A hero is, to me at least, I don't know what the dictionary definition is, but to me, a hero needs to have a positive impact in one aspect of someone's life, right? So a hero can be someone that helps you in a difficult times. A hero can be someone that you followed, even indirectly, even they may not even know about it, right? Someone you look up to, and that by itself helped you achieve something in life or get you out of a difficult time. So yeah, a lot of people can be legendary, but to me that doesn't make you a hero, right? A hero actually has
even your grandma, I would say.
Right.
I mean, with the tough life that she's a
Right.
hero on her own.
Right.
If you think about it.
And she may not even know about it, right? Her own children may have gone through things in life that they persevered because of the example that they had with their parents, right? Same with me. There are things that maybe my father or mom didn't tell me, but because of something I may have seen at the age of 11, maybe 30 years later, it helps me make it through a problem or difficult time or achieve something because of that influence, right? So it doesn't have to be a direct impact. Right. It can be an indirect influence.
Absolutely.
Do you want to invest in a home and you don't have income? We can help you.
Whether you're trying to purchase your first home, a primary residence, or you're trying to purchase a vacation home, a second home, or even an investment rental property, but you don't have documented income, your tax returns aren't there or they're weak, or you don't own a business, we have some loan options for you.
So this one, it was funny because your answer to this question was really funny. When I think it's the best answer ever, personally, that's what I think. What's simplest fact you wish more people understood?
Just basic logic, right? I think
It's like common sense.
Common sense, right? Yeah, if everyone just understood just basic common sense.
But how do you say that to women? No, I'm just like we change every second. We have hormones,
Right. Well, women, like I always tell my wife, I make fun of her, but it's an amazing capability. I make fun of her because I can't do it. Like women tend to think of 18 things at the same time, right? They can juggle. So men, I'm not going to generalize all men, but I'm very narrow focused. I focus on something, I zone in and I finish it. And then I can finish the next thing. And most of the business psychology studies have proven that women are much better at multitasking than men.
I think because we are also childbearing, like we can have babies, so we really need to have different set of...
Yeah, I mean, the world population will end if it was up to men to continue it, right? If men were in charge of having babies and making sure they don't die the day one, right? I mean, it's very difficult raising kids, and if it was up to men, I think the world our entire human race would end. But yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, just I would say just common sense and logic would end all of our wars, political, religious, anything, right? Most relationships, if everyone agreed on the core common sense, I think the rest is all noise. But unfortunately, we're emotional species, right? We're not machines. We're not computers.
Absolutely.
So our emotions, our hormones influence our decision making, and we make decisions that are usually wrong.
And sometimes with common sense, somebody's common sense might be different than another person.
Right,
because
but it shouldn't. Right,
yes, you're
but
saying that if we had like a set of rules, almost like that everybody agreed on some core things that
there are things that again in a first world society, right? We're not living in huts anymore, but in our at least society, there are obviously rules that we agree on, right?
Absolutely.
Like don't beat your wife, for example.
Yes.
Right. To me, that's common sense, but it may not be everywhere else, right?
That's true.
But when I say common sense, is like we all agree this is water, right? Let's at least agree on some core things, and then the rest can be figured out. But unfortunately, we let emotions get into play, and that's what takes down relationships, and also it takes down empires, right?
Absolutely. Yes. So when you said, tell me a little bit about women, because that was interesting when you said your wife can do 18 things at the same time. Yeah. Are there other things that surprise you with women, the things that we do that are really weird to men?
Yeah, the scheduling, the planning, right? Like if you don't put something on my calendar, I'm not there, right? And we have a shared calendar now because I'm so focused on things, right? So she'll know, oh, it's this person's birthday on this Wednesday in 3 months. And, you know, like I need to do this. Kids have this today, and then they have that. And then I'm like, where are you keeping all this information, right? It's fascinating.
See, that goes to tell us that biologically, as you were saying, we're different.
Correct.
You know, men or women are so different.
Correct.
And
Very
I
different.
think as women, we love our equality. Of course, I'm a strong woman. I mean, I'm successful. Thank God that we've had all the opportunities for education,
Right.
making money, being in business. At the end of the day, I'm a mother of two boys, two teenage boys. And they're going to a military school raised by, you know, they're all boys. And there are a
Right.
lot of men there from military, army,
Right.
Navy.
Strong figures.
Yeah, because I feel like at the end of the day, no matter how strong I am, I cannot be a good male role model
Of course.
for boys.
Right.
So, you know, I mean, tell me about the differences between men and women that I feel like, as you said, like common sense, there are some common sense things that we all need to agree on.
Right. Yeah. Look, I think aside from like if you're a male, if you're a woman or a man, I think going back to what we're talking about role models, I say seek advice from people who are qualified to give you advice, right? So if I have a niece, let's say, or even I don't have daughters, but let's say if I had a daughter and they have some feminine experience question, right? Something that has to do, I'm not qualified to give advice on that, right? Yes, I can go educate myself, but no matter how many books I read or how many websites I visit, there's no way I'll have the experience that another woman went through as being a child or a teenage girl, right? There's no way I can replace that. So if I had a daughter, of course, I think she would get the best advice. Now, advice in life is different. Advice in business, in education, that I can help. But if she had a specific experience or an issue that has to do with being a woman, and only women experience it, then of course her mom, grandma, aunt would be more qualified to give that advice.
Absolutely.
Right? So same with boys. There are things that boys go through, and I can see it more naturally, and my wife might get frustrated with it, and I said, don't worry about it, it's fine. You know, like I went through it, my brother went through it, my uncle went through it, right? It's normal. Boys do this at this age, right? And so it helps. And then later on, hopefully, when it comes to their relationships, of course, I can give them better advice coming from a man, coming from a
Absolutely.
boy who also dated girls than the mom can. So I think figures are now, not everyone is fortunate enough to have both parents in the
yes.
household. Unfortunately, it happens. I wish every child had the opportunity to have two parents in the household, because even if it's a same-sex, parents, there are things that one parent will add value to, and the other parents will have other things that they can help you with.
Absolutely.
So it's definitely, they don't, even if they're the same gender, usually in the relationship they have different roles, right? So they
Yes.
can give better advice. But for children who are not fortunate enough to have two parents in their life, they should always have a strong male figure if you're a boy. So whether it's your uncle, if you're a grandparent, if it's school, if it's your teacher, if it's military school, if it's your coach, right? I think without that, and there's many studies of this shown that like single parents who don't have that role model for their kids, it affects them. It affects them in school, it affects them in careers, affects them in business, and the statistics is very clear. So it's very good to recognize that, okay, I don't have this role model, I need to expose them to something
Yes.
else
Yes.
that's going to provide that influence.
Yeah,
So,
sometimes
and
some of
and
the
I
things
think
that my
that's-
boys tell me and the way that their brains, they think, it's so different.
Right.
And I'm blessed to have boys because I feel like, wow, it's a different perspective.
Right,
that
absolutely.
I would have never thought about that. And I think that's why it's amazing that women, men, anybody, that you can, all of us, can add value to
Right.
each other and
Correct.
learn from each other.
Right, yeah. Yeah, and it doesn't have to be your parents. I mean, some people have both parents, and it's a horrible experience.
Yes.
Just having a mom and a dad doesn't mean you have a perfect household and everything is guaranteed. So in those situations, you need to, as a teenager, even growing up, you need to recognize what role models you're lacking in what areas and go after them. And that's what will make you successful. You shouldn't let the cards you were dealt, set your destiny. Right?
Absolutely.
So and that's happened to me, right? There are times where you need better role models in some areas, and if your parents can't help you in those areas, then you go find new role models. Hopefully, good role models. You don't fill the gap with bad role models, and then which we see that all the time.
Absolutely. So now we're going to go full circle. I'm going to go back to when you started the USC.
Yes.
So you went to what your business is right now. So you finished school and you decided that you wanted to have your own business because you love real estate and you're so good at it. Thank God. I mean, you're one of the best of the, not one of the best out there. Tell me what motivated you, first of all, and how did you open your office? Then a little bit about your practice and how people can reach out to you.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, so after business school, I tried at another stint of 1 or 2 years that I tried different careers, but still not my own business, so I wasn't self-employed. I did try a couple of ideas on the side, and then soon came to realize you cannot do things on the side. It's just you gotta either hone in and give it to your 150%, or it's not gonna succeed. So then I started. One thing that's always helped me in my life is I've always been exposed to successful people, and that's deliberate, right? It's not by luck. I don't believe in luck for anything, right? So you set your circle. So I've worked hard to always be around influential people and successful people, right? So when I decided to make this huge 180 in my career, at this point I already had a mortgage, I had 2 children, right? So it wasn't easy decision. But I started speaking with my friends, my sphere of influence, right? To learn to see where I can succeed, where I think I can succeed. And then after talking to real estate folks, mortgage brokers, I came to my good friend, who's my business partner now, and we had a conversation, and then that was the last meeting I had, meaning like I made the decision, I said, I'm going in. If it doesn't go well, I can always go back and do what I was doing before. Again, I will reiterate the support, right? Because if she hadn't said, do it, it was a big risk, right? Because
absolutely,
you know how it is to start a business. You don't make money from day one.
Yes,
so
and you had, as you said, mortgage, a family to support. I mean, that's a lot.
Right,
of
I
pressure.
wasn't a 22-year-old living with my parents. It would have been so much easier then. But yeah, so I started the business. I got into. We started building the business together. Of course, he had been in the business much longer, so that absolutely helped. But we partnered up and we started building Option One Lending, and that was 7 years ago. So
Option One Lending. Yes, if you ever need mortgages, anything, he is the guy to go to. He makes miracles happen. No, really, I'm serious. Like anything that other people cannot do, he does it. I mean, it's amazing.
And thank you for being one of my best clients.
Thank you. Amazing. This is like, even where we are right now is because of you. I never thought, but when you call Artin Fallahi, this is what happens. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time, Artin John. Thank you so much for making the time to be here. You're amazing, someone to look up to. I'm really doing this show because I have 2 boys and I want them to see good role models. This is what motivated me and inspired me to do this show. And people like you, men like you, really, I'm like, wow, this is amazing. This is what I want them to be. As you said, role model. Right. That's why you're here, and other amazing men come to this show because that's what I want my kids to look up to.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's definitely humbling. Thanks for having me. And life is a learning experience, so there's no one's perfect, like we started the conversation with. So learn every day, and hopefully we get better every day at everything.
God willing.
Hi, my name is Perla, and I am a Dr. Neda's office. I use the weight loss fat nutrition, and it has helped a lot. Have lost over 20 pounds already, and I recommend it for everyone. You should come and get it.
I know it's option one lending, but you're also on Instagram. You're everywhere, basically.
Yes, I'm on Instagram, Artin the Lender.
Oh, yes,
handle.
Artin the Lender.
And we have option one lending. We have also a business page as well. And we're in Sherman Oaks, and we've been in business for over 20 years.
That's amazing. Well, thank you so much,
Thank
Artin.
you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Thank
That's it. We're done. You're done. You're done. You did so well. You did so well. Yeah, see, tummy feels better. Everything feels better. No, his neck is so much better. Yeah, yeah. Your neck is so much better. Now you have full range, see? You have full range of motion. You can look at mommy from everywhere she goes. Oh,
Please go ahead and hit that like button, comment, ask questions, share, and subscribe. You're a very valuable part of this movement, and your opinion really matters. Thank you very much. Light, love, and blessings to you all.